The last things I want to show you is squash and stretch. When you're working in animation fields, for animation fields, so for essentially for the cartoon, okay, there is the effects is called as a squash and scratch, not for the reality. Squash and scratch is for create is the techniques for create more dynamics animation. Essentially you have your object is stretching in not natural effects, or is squash also is not natural effects for create more dynamic situation. In this case, I want to show you how to squash and scratch the ball. And for do that, I need to create the control, external control with the another null object. And say control squash and stretch. And I want also to delete everything is not used. So if I click on the right here, parameters menu, edit parameter interface, I want, for example, hide more of this part. For example, I want hide also delete this, for example. Just select this folder and click on invisible. If I apply, you can see my tab here is disappeared. You can appear it again with the show invisible, and you can select and uncheck the invisible. You can return the normal situation. Also, you can go here. We can transformation order is not important. The rotation order is not important for now. Translate. I want to keep only the rotate and scale, and other I want to disable that. So I want also invisible and want to apply. I can do that. I can keep also only one control here, but I want to show you how to working with more effects, more control, more different controls, because maybe you don't like the effects of one of these. You want disable, you want shake and detached from your connection. That should be one option. Is essentially is like create the layer. You can working with the layer, the animation layer. You can add or subtract your effects. Okay, and then we can go jump inside in our subs of our network. Here I want to create the specific effects. Is called with the blend shape. Essentially the blend shape subs here. I connected this and I don't have any other effects. Essentially is take the transformation from one input and transfer the deformation of this transformation to another input. I don't want to talk about more about the blend shape here. The blend shape you can have here is difference from the blend shape you can have here. Okay, it's essentially is a little difference. I want to go here and I want to create the simple transformation subs. I want to connect here, go here, essentially zoom with the on your sphere, and I want to scale up, a little scale up. Maybe my pivot, on the pivot I can create this H script with a $y min, so is moved my pivot point on the base of my object, and I can stretch up. I can switch also with perspective, and I can stretch a little bit also in this direction and in this direction. Okay, and I want connected my second input here. I can create another, I can connect another layer and more, but in this case I want to keep only one, because if I move it here, essentially I can scroll down, I can see the blend transformation from this to this. If I scroll that from more, you can see it's change the original shape to the the shape of your transform you can have here, essentially from the second shape you can have here. And with the less, if I press the middle mouse button or the wheel, you can see is negative is moved in down, is created our effects. Essentially we can create, this is my squash and this is my stretch. I can set it to 0. How can I take this parameter and use on my control outside? Very quickly, I can come back here on my null and I can come back on my edit interface and I can create the float parameters. Float parameters is all parameters with the decimal, with the dot and the number behind. This is the fraction, essentially. For example, 0.1, 0.2, negative 0.1, negative 0.2, etc., etc. Integer is the integer number like 1, 2, 3, 4, minus 1, 2, 3, etc., etc., etc. Here we can call that it's essentially we can call squash and stretch, and we can also create apply, or we can also create a squash and stretch in the name of your object and name of your label. Where is the difference from a name and a label? Essentially, if I can apply, you can see here this is the label. If I go here and keep and stay freeze for some seconds, is this tooltips, and you can see parameter is the same of you can have here. Essentially is that if I change like s and s, if I say apply, can go here, you can see is s and s is changed the name, but I want to keep where I can, I want to keep the same name for label and name of parameters. Essentially I can assign, and then I can assign very quickly. I have a two-way for assign the parameters from that to connected with the blend shape I have here. I can just select this, copy channel, copy parameters, go here and paste the relative reference. If I paste the relative reference, essentially is create the reference. You can connect these parameters to other parameters. There is also another way for create this control here, and another way is go inside your network. You can take this, you can drag and drop, and you can, now it's not working, but essentially you can drag and drop in your element here. But I prefer create the parameters here, and then I want to create paste relative reference. Okay, or you can drag and drop on paste relative reference here. You can apply, you can accept. I can create the same effects, the same control also here if you want. Okay, and now we can go to create our squash and stretch animation. Obviously we need to create the keyframe here, the first keyframe here. We can go down, and when it go down here, for example, you start to create the stretch, and we can also create the rotation. Okay, we can also keep the rotation here, with the shift and arrow. We can move it to the next frame, arrow to the right, and we can rotate a little bit like this. Okay, maybe this squash is too much, but for now it's okay. When it's touched, is stretching down. Okay, and when he's up, he stretch up. So he stretch and squash. This is very, maybe we can go here stretched. We can rotate this to 0, and we can see stretch, go down, stretch, stretch. Maybe we can compress here, 0. When it's here, we can move it like this. You can see all I did, all I talked about in the previous lesson, we can apply in this situation. So I don't tell you all operation I did, like for example, select from the direct from the timeline, squash, move it like this. We can come back to 0, not less of 0, like this, because also we have the rotation apply here. And we can stretch down. We can see it's working. We can continue to working on our effects. Zero, up, more stretch. Zero, 0, stretch, rotate a little bit, touched, stretch, 5 for example, 0, a little bit. Boing, 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 and here we can come back to 0. Zero. Oh, okay. A little bit. And here we can rotate like 0 or less. And we can give a little bit. And here we can just a little bit here. and we can keep the last frame without any deformation. Okay, that should be one situation you can have. You can see also with the motion path. Smooth shader, press play. I have this situation. Maybe it's more dramatic situation. It's not more balance between stretch, but it's only for show you how it should be work with very extremely way for that. But it's one good example. Okay, that it's all. If you don't like this, you can just scroll it, shake, and you can remove it. Now it's still okay. It's not because in this situation the connection it's apply here. Okay, you can also switch like this, or you can create in this situation switch the control on off. You can see it's not apply, but you can in some situation this chain is working very well. Obviously, sorry, I don't keep more attention, but it's not working in this situation. By the way, you can also create here the toggle, and you can say enable effects. You can apply, you can also move it up. If you want to do very organization, you can make that it's horizontal next parameters. You can have here the effects. Okay, and you can also copy that, copy here, essentially the toggle, past relative reference, report the value from this is 0 and this is 1. If I check this, if I press play, you can see that, and that, and that. If I disable, you can have disable. And that it's very comfortable to have this chain in this case situation, because you can understand very quickly where is your control and where is how is working and this your control here and here. Okay, you can also switch, for example, that for rotation. You can put under, oops, okay, is put under, you can see here, and you can also hide, for example, this and this if you want. Okay, that is it all. Bye.